Hi there, and welcome to Leslie Denny Fitness on our YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you're joining us today. If you have been following along with the shoulder recovery series that we've been doing in chair yoga, this will be the fourth installment that we're doing today. And this will, for its purpose, be hopefully leading you into doing the remaining chair yoga classes that are out there. So this is what I want you to think about. I always give this, just like the disclaimer in the beginning of the class is that really you want to remember that I'm not a doctor. I'm just providing you some yoga instruction in moving forward with your practice. But this little selection has been really specific to shoulder injuries or an accident that may have happened that you're recovering from. The caveat is that the guidance comes from your healthcare practitioner, your physical therapist, and as long as they're comfortable with you moving forward with these practices and you're comfortable as well, that's what matters. So at no time throughout the practice should you feel any pain or really something that pulls you away or startles you in the practice. You should feel gradually opening up and movement throughout the practice so that at the end of it, 24, 48 hours afterwards, if there's no pain, you're probably good to go with moving your way in towards the remaining chair yoga classes. So let's meet me on the mat. I decided to do this one inside my yoga studio today. And I did it specifically so that I could kind of show you what I do when I'm doing my chair yoga class. I have hardwood floors, so they can be slippery if you put a chair on them. And definitely we're going to be coming out of the chair to do some standing and balance poses. So you want to make sure that chair is not going anywhere. So putting a yoga mat down and placing the chair on it and testing it out is a great method. Don't assume that if you put a chair on carpet, it's not going to go anywhere because it very well could slide depending. So you want to test your surfaces really well. The other thing that I'm using today is I do have my block underneath my feet. That really comforts my hip flexors because I get super tight in my hip flexors. So to give myself a little bit of a break, this does feel good. Also, I've got a strap handy, and then anything else that you want to create the environment that you enjoy most. Essential oils, you might want to have some music playing that you enjoy. Also, remember hydration, maybe some water or a cup of tea sitting by so you can take a sip occasionally. Those are the kinds of things that you want to think about. So this practice will last about 50 minutes, and throughout, just stay really paying attention to how you feel, and if at any time you feel like you need to halt the practice, feel free to do that. We don't want to force ourselves to have anything move through the practice because when you force something, it rarely sticks. So come to a comfortable seated posture and just let that chair hold you right into it. Just cradle yourself into it. And then take a few deep breaths. Just a nice deep inhale. Sigh the air out. And do that just a few more times. And then when you're comfortable, just start moving into a rhythm of breath. Feel comfortable to close your eyes and just begin to sink in to your practice. And once you feel comfortable in the rhythm of your breath, in your mind, we like to set an intention, and it's always important to do that. We pretty much bring to mind a descriptive word of where we would like to be. Things like tranquil, peaceful, kind, present, guided, all of these types of things, just anything that comes to mind for you. And then you precede it with the words I am, soham. So repeat a sentence in your mind over and over again with that expression, that intention. And hold that thought, that sankalpa in your mind throughout your practice today. And if you're comfortable lifting your back up and away from the chair, so you're sitting nice and tall, feel free. Otherwise, keep cradled in the chair. And on the inhale, lift the chest out and up. Exhale, roll those shoulders forward and round that back. And just keep moving in that cat-cow flow. Then begin to introduce the arms. If you're comfortable going there, just sweep the arms out in front, and on the inhale, open the arms out to the back. Exhale, bring them out to the front, rounding that back, and just keep flowing from inhale to exhale. So this is a good time to start really checking in to see how the shoulder area is feeling. And certainly if it's already starting to feel uncomfortable to you, you're going to want to dial back on this one and maybe work on it a little later. So, the wonderful thing about knowing ourselves is knowing ourselves, knowing what's going to feel right, what's going to work best for us, and not trying to force our way through anything. I like to think of the two words simplicity and focus. I love those two words bound together. When we keep it simple, we can focus on things so much easier. And when we have clear focus, it's easier to keep it simple. Good. Then rest the hands towards your lap, and on the inhale, just reach that left arm out and up, and then you're going to circle it forward. So we're going to be incorporating some of the movements that we had in the prior 3 series that we've been doing. And then go ahead and rotate it in the opposite direction. So don't worry about it. If you went clockwise first, counterclockwise, it doesn't matter. We're just moving through both areas. And then slowly begin to rotate the palm facing up. And just keep moving. You notice that I'm keeping my chest facing forward. I'm not rotating into it or rocking back to the side. And then rotate it in the opposite direction. So you're just moving from one direction to the other. And notice that I'm not moving in really big circles. It's just very small. And if you're feeling a little bit of fatigue right now, that's to be expected. And then release the hand to your lap. Then go ahead and extend that opposite arm out, palm facing forward, and start to circle it around in just whatever direction you choose. And notice that I'm not raising the arm too high. I'm keeping it at shoulder height. Remember, we talked about, I think in the first segment, that if you raise the arm too much when you're doing movements like that, you can create a lot of shoulder impingement that's going to defeat your practice before you even get started. And then rotate it in the opposite direction and just keep circling it. And then begin to rotate that palm facing up and just keep moving in that one direction. And then circle it in the opposite direction. Should feel a little fatigued, but still good. Good. And then drop the hands back into your lap. Drawing elbow to elbow, hand to hand, slowly lift up and then sweep the arms around and down. So this is another one that we did in one of the earlier installments. So we're really incorporating a lot of things to not test, but ensure that everything feels comfortable enough to move deeper into your practice. And then one more flow from there. Good. Then relaxing the hands towards your lap. Should feel a little warmth throughout there. Drop the chin to the chest and then roll the head over to one side. I'm reaching my left ear towards the left shoulder and then extend out through that opposite arm. This is that trapezius stretch over the tops of the shoulder. And that's a great way to release tension into the shoulder girdle. But again, you want to be working at the range of intensity that feels best to you. Good. And then as you release the hand to the lap, drop the chin to the chest, roll it to the other side, and then extend that opposite arm out. Notice I'm kind of pulling and pointing the fingertip more in a downward direction. And then releasing chin to chest, dropping that hand towards the mat, moving back into your cat-cow flow. Inhaling, open the arms, exhale, bring it forward. Then bend the elbows, and in this transition, try to bring those arms just at shoulder height. This changes the feeling of it quite a bit. So you might feel quite a bit more work taking place in that upper portion of your body. Again, should not be painful, but definitely feeling a lot more circulation happening. And one more flow from there. Good. And then release the hands towards the lap. With the next inhale, sweep those arms out and up and pay really close attention to when you begin to feel some restriction. And notice I'm going nice and slow. And then as you exhale, release into your forward fold. We're going into our half sun salutations. Inhale to flat back, lengthening out. Exhaling into your forward fold. Then inhale, slowly sweep the arms out and up. And if you run out of inhale there, it's okay. Exhaling, draw the hands to heart center. We're going to do 4 more of those. Inhaling slow, reach the arms up. Exhale, release into your forward fold. Inhale to flat back. Exhaling back into forward fold. Then inhale, reach the arms up. Stay strong through those belly muscles. And exhaling, hands to heart center. Inhaling, sweep the arms up. Exhale, a slow forward fold. Very controlled movement. Inhale to flat back. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhale, reach out and up. Exhaling, hands to heart. We've got 2 more to go. So just work at your own pace, but try to focus on a slow, intentional movement. And then notice the muscles that have to really connect and engage to make sure that your body's fully supported. And then one more. Good. Then as you rest the hands towards your lap, lifting up that left arm, kind of like you're making a turn signal here, bring the arm back, but notice I'm not turning my torso into it. I'm only bringing the arm as far back as I am comfortable right here in the shoulder. And I'm trying not to drop my elbow. I'm trying to keep it shoulder height, but not going higher than that. And just gently open it up, and then you're going to turn the head to look away from that arm. This increases the stretch load that you're feeling. So again, pay really close attention to what your boundaries are today. Gentle boundaries all throughout. Then turn the face facing forward again. And if your arm's getting fatigued, drop and then come back in if you can. But now we're going to straighten that arm out. So as I lengthen it, that always changes that muscular orientation and load. And I'm continuing to bring the arm back, and then again, I'm going to turn the head and look away from that arm. Look away! And just feel that stretch right into that shoulder. And then turning the face forward again, go ahead and relax the hand towards the lap. Rotate that, just shrug the shoulder up and around. That was a lot of work for that area. So you want to do a check-in and make sure that everything feels okay. We're not feeling pain or burning. It feels just maybe a little bit of fatigue. So we're going to do that to the other side. As you bring the arm up like a turn signal, and then bring that elbow back. And just stabilize it there, keeping the chest facing forward, and then turn the head to look away from it. That increases that intensity. And let's just take 4 breaths here. And breath is very subjective. You may finish up a little sooner or last a little longer than I last. And then slowly turn the head facing forward. And this is when we're going to extend that arm out. We're still keeping the arm back, palm facing forward, and then slowly turn the head away from that arm. Just almost imagine that the inhales that you're bringing into your body, you're sending right in to that shoulder area, warming it, increasing its energy load, supporting it. And then as you turn the face forward, go ahead and drop the hand to the lap and then shrug that shoulder up and around. So now we're going to move back into what I would call a counter pose for that flow, which is something we've already done. Elbow to elbow, hand to hand, inhaling, lift up, exhale, move it around and down. Notice if you have an increased range of motion after doing that. So this is the kind of things that we're looking for. And then we're going to move into our eagle arms. Good. And one more flow from there. Good. Now when you bring the arms in, just stack that right elbow on top of left. This time we're going to be, and I'll turn to the side so you can see this, we're going to be lifting the elbows up and away from that back body and just feel that deep stretch. You should feel that stretch throughout the shoulder blades and the upper back. And then slowly bring the elbows down into the chest. This is when you begin to feel that stretch across the tops of your shoulders. And from here, you can drop the chin to the chest, roll one ear towards the shoulder, and then slowly bring chin to chest and roll it to the other side. And then do that one more time to each side. Then as you bring the chin to your chest, lift the head, and then release the arms, shoulder circles around. And we'll go back to the other side. So we stack the right elbow on top of left. We're going to switch them out. Go ahead and bring elbow to elbow, hand to hand first. Inhaling, lift up. Exhale, sweep it around and down. And you're always looking to check back in with your intention, but also explore how the body is working throughout this practice too. So it's a very physical focused practice when we're moving into recovery from something. Good. And then one more flow from here. And then as you bring it in, you're going to stack the left elbow on top of right. So this is the part where we're lifting the elbows up and drawing those arms away from the back body. And just focus that deep, intentional breath into the upper back. Notice if you're struggling. You always want to check in and notice, is there something that I am forcing to happen and I don't want to be there? If you feel that way, come on out. It's okay. It's a process when we are recovering. And then slowly bring those elbows down and into the chest. This is that stretch across the trapezius muscles on the tops of the shoulders. Then bring the chin to the chest, roll it over to one side and stretch. And then bring the chin to the chest and roll it to the other side. And then bringing the chin to the chest, lifting up the head, and then releasing shoulder circles up and around. Good. So we're going to do a little bit of a repeat just for you to check in and see how things are feeling. But we're going to do both arms at the same time this time. So we're going to bring the elbows out to the side. And then first turn the head to one direction and then the other. And keep moving the elbows back. Now, as you're doing this, if you start to feel compression and discomfort at the back of your neck, bring the elbows a little farther forward, because that means you're just moving into that cervical vertebra, and you don't want to do that. Good. Then extend both arms out. And you can bring them back if you like. When they're extended out like this, you can usually bring the arms back a little bit farther than you can when the elbows are bent. It's just a little restriction in muscle orientation. So just be really aware on what feels good to you. And always remember it's a process. I remember 3 years ago when I broke my foot, and then as I was getting healed, I broke my wrist. It was like a really klutz year. And I remember coming back from those and the fear factors that I had, that I was going to hurt something again and then release. That's a very real feeling, and sometimes that can inhibit your process. So embrace it, but then really know what you can tenderly walk into without bringing harm to yourself. But it's a hard journey. It is a rocky trek. Trust me, I remember so well. So we remember that for upper body, the lower body, and stretching is really important. We incorporated some of this information in our practices early on during this little rebuild series for the shoulders. So the first thing that I want you to do is just extend out through that left leg and draw it back, and then keep alternating from side to side. We want to stretch those legs out, get a little bit of circulation moving through those legs. And then if you want to engage the abdominals a little bit, after you extend the leg, lift the knee up and then bring it down to the block or your mat. So when you do that, you're really working to engage the pelvic floor as well as your abdominals, which are just such critically important musculature in our body. For some reason, I've been talking about the pelvic floor a lot these days. I don't know why. It just seems to keep popping up in conversations, but that tells you the circle that I travel in. Good. And then work one more time to each side, just like that. Good. Now we're going to cross that right ankle over the left thigh. And you have a couple of options. If you're using the block, I would suggest just moving it out of the way. And if you're comfortable taking that ankle across the knee, just lengthen through that flat back and lean into it. Now, if you're starting to feel like, I'm feeling something opening up here and it feels really good, then placing that left foot on the block with the ankle crossed over is going to intensify the stretch, and you don't want to be struggling. But this sometimes feels so much better because people can really get into the hip stretch, and that's what you want to do right now, is really open up that hip. So let's take about 4 breaths here. Just keep leaning into it, not necessarily testing your boundaries, but exploring them, seeing if you can go a little bit deeper without struggling. Good. And then release from there. Should feel pretty darn good. Switching it off to the other side. You can use either with the block or without. When you incorporate that block, as we said, it really does increase the amount of resistance that you're feeling through the hip. So just go to the place that feels best. And something I failed to mention on the other side is you want to flex your foot. You want to point out through the heel, pull the toes towards you, not pointing the toe down or just relaxing it, because when you're flexed, these muscles fire that support the knee to keep you from torquing it. And that's just a nice little safety measure that we remember. And just give it a couple more breaths here. Good. And then release from there. Feels really good to me. So you can rest your feet on the block, and the next thing that we're going to do is stretch the calves. So as you bring the block outward, bring the edges of your feet to the edge of the block, and then drop the heels down and lean into it. But this is not all that we're going to do. We're going to still keep working those arms. So on the inhale, reach the arms right alongside the ears. Exhale, bring those elbows down and back. So I'll turn to the side so you can see a little other alternate vision of this. As my heels are dropped, long flat back, leaning forward, arms alongside the ears. Inhale here, exhale, bringing it back. So in moving into this variation, just keep doing that as I get realigned here. It really will start to rocket fire quite a bit of energy throughout your body. And those are the things that we want when we're starting to work into a practice, increasing energy load so that the blood is circulating. You know, it's just getting that oxygen throughout the body is really important. So let's do 4 more of these. One more for good measure. And then release from there. Good. Drawing the arms behind you. Clasp your hands. This is a big one. You can use the strap behind you. Again, I'm going to turn to the side and give you a little visual here. I'm going to throw this over my shoulder. If we clasp the hands and we're opening up into that chest expansion, and then we notice that the chin is starting to jut forward, and it's almost like you're rounding your upper back. You're defeating the process of moving into chest expansion, which is completely about the pectoralis muscles and opening that up. So feel free to use a strap, especially when we're in recovery. We want to make use of all of those props. They really will go a long way in your recovery. And I know sometimes we'll say, well, gosh, I never had to use a strap before. And it doesn't make you weak. It makes you really wise about supporting yourself with the equipment that you need to be able to get into your practice. So as you're lifting the arms, just find the stretch point where you can feel this really deep stretch that's going through the chest, but it's not a painful stretch. It's a really activated stretch. And then release from there. You may needed to have released from that earlier. The next thing that we're going to do is the stretch through the front of the throat. You probably remember this. You're going to take your left hand and park it to the right upper portion of your chest, right underneath the clavicle. Push in and pull down. Then lift the chin, and then you're going to guide the chin over to the left. This is just such a fantastic stretch for the throat that we don't get very often. I think my mind is slipping here. It's age. But I think it's the plantaris muscles right here that we're stretching. And then slowly release, and then we'll switch it to the other side. Make sure you don't feel any tenderness here. Pressing that right hand just below the clavicle, the collarbone here on the left side of the chest. Push and pull down. Then lift the chin up and guide it over to your right. And then just take a series of about 5-6 breaths. And remembering that when we're doing a static stretch, you pretty much have to hold it for a little bit of time. And then slowly release from there. Oh, boy, that feels so good to me. So let's move into our cat-cow flow, just resting the hands onto the lap, inhaling, lift the chest, exhale, round the back. Then bring the back up to neutral. This next stretch is really designed for the upper back, kind of moving in towards where the scapula is engaged with the rhomboid muscles. So as you reach the left arm up and overhead, I want you to pretend like you're pointing to that right corner of the room. Keep that left hip anchored to your chair and just stretch into it without collapsing. So we're not doing a big rotation. It's just like a reach of like, it's over there. And just stretch. And then slowly release. That's a big one. And then reaching that right arm up and pointing gently over towards that left corner of the room to feel that stretch. And then re-anchor that right hip down to your seat, nice and firm. Good. And then release from there. Shoulder circles up and around. Do a check-in. Let's take a few breaths because we're going to be coming to a standing posture in just a moment. And I just want you to check in. If you're feeling just like fatigued to the point of discomfort and you're not sure if you want to go farther, just timestamp the video here before you head into the rest, because we're really going to start opening up into some standing postures using the chair for support. So just take yourself a few breaths here and explore your intention, explore your mindset, and explore the physical body to see if you need to dial back a little bit here. Good. And if you're ready to move forward, just make sure to keep the block. Any other objects that could trip you up? My cat is not here right now, so that's not a trippable. Go ahead and lift up nice and strong, and then come around to the back of your chair, keeping your hand towards the chair. We're just going to rest fingertips of the chair, and we're going to lift up to the balls of the feet. And it's a real simple lift and then lower. Good. So just allow yourself to get into the steadiness of that balance. And feel free to keep your hands on the chair. It really will help out. One thing I also didn't mention is the chair back shouldn't be too high, because when we move into our downward facing dog, we're going to actually be draping over the chair back. I made desperately wrong mistake. The very first chair yoga video that I ever did, and I used one of my dining room chairs that have a really high back, and then when I went to flip myself over the back of it to go into downward dog, it was like, I could feel it cutting into my belly. It wasn't pretty. Good. And then just one more lift and lower. Good. Anchor those feet hip width apart. With an inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale into your forward fold. Then inhale to flat back. Good. Now from here, I'm just going to turn to the side. Sometimes that's kind of helpful. I've got a very flat back, extending out through the tailbone. And what I will do here is on the inhale, I'm going to reach out one arm out to the side, bring it back on the exhale. Inhale to the opposite arm. Good. And I'm just going to do that a few more times. And then I'm going to be pointing the arms straight out in front of me. And when I do that, I'm going to go into a little bit of a balance here. It's a supported chair balance. Just do that one more time to each side. Notice I'm not rotating the torso. It's facing forward. Now I'm going to stretch that arm out in front of me. And for shoulder recovery, this can be really challenging. So again, if you feel like you're pushing yourself a little too hard here, dial back. Give yourself a break sometimes. Sometimes we force ourselves to do things because we think we're going to get stronger if we force our way through it. I'm not so sure if that's always true. Good. Now with the next extension, reach out that left arm and then extend that right leg back and up. Then pull in through that abdominal. You notice I'm keeping my head extended out from the spine. I'm not dropping the head. I'm staying nice and strong. And this will probably increase your blood circulation quite a bit. And then slowly release. We're going to switch it right to the other side, extending out through that right arm, lifting that left leg, and holding right there. Notice if you're feeling any kind of discomfort in the low back, or if you're favoring the hip on that right leg by kicking the hip out. Try to bring yourself to that flat back. And just take one more breath here. And then slowly release. Good. Round the back and roll it up. That was a good job. On the next one, now that we've started really working with those arms even more, as you lift the heels up off the mat, just see if you can reach one arm up, maybe two arms, and just give yourself a pause point here. Just try to hold it. If you have to lower the heels really quickly or the arms because it doesn't feel supported or you're just starting to feel too much fatigue, it's always okay. And then gently release those heels down. Good. Now we're going to step the right foot out, and we're standing pretty broad right here. And then inhaling, reach that right arm up and over and just stretch. This is a big one to remember, that I'm not collapsing to the midsection of my waist here. I'm trying to keep extending out through here. For those of you that do a lot of yoga or have done yoga with triangle pose, we talk about that, about not collapsing to the inside of the posture. And then release from there and go ahead and step that foot in, then step the left foot out and reach that left arm up and overhead. Again, no rotation. We're actually trying to keep that chest facing forward and just stretching laterally through here without collapsing to the inside of the waist. Good. And then release from there and step it in. We're combining that, and with a very specific purpose of getting your blood circulating to try to get into a little bit more workload. So again, pay really close attention if it feels uncomfortable. You're going to be moving the right side to the body over to the left. So on the inhale, step that right foot out, reach that right arm up and over, and as you exhale, bring it back. Then inhale, step the opposite side, and exhale, bring it back. And then just keep alternating from side to side. You may be moving with your breath a little faster or a little slower than me, and that's okay. Good. We got 4 more to do each side. Torture. Now, if it does feel like it's torturous for you, then just dial back. Little things that you're watching for is how does that low back feel? Because we've got to engage the abdominals to support that low back. 2 more each side. Good. Then with the next inhale, lift the heels up, arms up again if you can. If you need to keep those heels down, it's okay. And then slowly lower into your downward facing dog. Inhale, lengthen to your flat back, and then start to slide that left foot back into your pyramid pose. When we do this, you'll feel that stretch into the hamstrings on the back of that forward leg, the right leg. Good. Then as you bend into that front knee, round the back and roll it up. Either hold on to your chair or reach one or both arms up. Really anchor through those feet. Good. And if both arms are raised, go ahead and drop the right arm and reach that left arm up and over, but press into that back heel on that left leg. Do you feel that hip flexor stretch? Good. And then release and step to the top. Lifting both heels up, move into your balance. And then slowly lower into your downward facing dog. Inhale to flat back. And then slide the right foot back into your pyramid pose. And just embrace the stretch that feels best to you. Keep spreading out your toes and anchoring your feet to the mat. Good. And then as you bend through that front knee, round the back, roll it up, and move right into your warrior one. Either with 1 or 2 arms or no arms. You can keep the hands to the chair if you're still feeling a little stable, because when we're in recovery and we're starting to move into the practice, even if you've been practicing yoga for years, it can be such a process to get back to where you were, and it may not be just the same as where you were anyway. So all of that is good information. So let's reach that left arm down, and then the right arm is reaching up and over. This is the hip flexor stretch for that right hip, and really anchor that back heel down. Good. And then release and go ahead and step to the top. Anchor through your feet. Inhale, reach up. Exhale into your forward fold. Inhale to flat back and exhaling forward fold. Round the back and roll it up, stepping both feet wide apart, toes pointed out. So when we start to move into a goddess flow, make sure that when you bend into your knees, you're not feeling knee tension. So that may mean you need to reposition your toes facing outward a little bit more or inward. So on the inhale, reach up through that left arm. Exhale, bring that elbow down. Then inhale and exhale, hand down. Inhale with the right. Exhale, bring it out to the side and down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Alternate. Inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Both arms. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So notice now I'm keeping the arms up and I'm really working that upper back musculature for the purpose of contraction in the upper back stretches the muscles in the front of the chest. 4 more flows. And let's do 1 more for good measure. Good. And then release, stepping those feet back in. Drawing the hands behind you. Use your strap if you need to. Chest expansion. Just open up through that chest. Good. And then slowly release. Shoulder circles up and around. This is really great. Now we're going to do 1 more balance pose, and this time we're going to use just 1 hand. So as I'm turning, I'm keeping my left hand on the chair back, and if this one is uncomfortable for you, drop it out. What I'm going to do is reach that right arm up, and I'm moving right into a warrior 3, and I'm using the support of the chair. Then slowly begin to hinge forward. Keep holding on to that chair. This is almost like what we did in the very beginning of our standing sequence. And then as you come back up, just slowly bring yourself back and reach that arm up and then release. Now let's turn to the opposite side. Reaching that left arm up, slowly hinge forward and bring yourself into that warrior 3. Just go to where you can. Stay nice and strong. And then slowly rise up, bringing that arm up and overhead and release. Good. Let's go ahead and come back to a seated posture in our chair. We're almost done. All right, so go ahead and kick your knees from side to side. I'm going to do into a warrior 2 and then moving into a side angle. So I've got a couple of options for you. Keep your block at the highest level. We're going to step the right foot out, keeping that left knee facing forward, and bring the arms out from the shoulders. And then we'll do a little flow here. Inhaling, reach the arms up, exhale, back down. We've done a lot with that upper body and throughout the shoulder range, so you really want to start checking in at this point to see if you're starting to feel enough fatigue, or much less, you don't want to feel any pain. But fatigue sometimes can lead to a lot of discomfort. So if you're feeling some fatigue, then dial back a little bit. You can always timestamp the video and come back in. And don't forget, if you want to bypass a lot of the banter in the very beginning, timestamp the video to know when you should roll it forward, fast forward it to where you can begin it without all of that little blah, blah, blah. Good. And then bring the arms out from the shoulders, palms facing forward, and bring those arms back. Good. Then we're going to rest that right forearm to the right thigh. This is where this block is going to come in a little handy. And then sweep that left arm up and over. Now you may only get up this high, but go to where you can. And then if you want to use the block to increase a little bit of intensity, you can rest the hand right on the block like so. You don't want to feel any kind of low back tension right here. You want to feel really supported through the abdominals. So just being mindful of where you are, and if you feel like you need to drop that elbow back up to the thigh, you're welcome to it. Then slowly lowering that arm down, moving into reverse warrior. Sweep that right arm out and up. And then release and step it to the center. Take a breath, moving your block to the opposite side. We're going to step that left foot out, moving into that warrior two. Then inhaling, reach up, exhale, arms out from the shoulders, and just keep flowing through that a few more times. Really check in with your breath. Sometimes I know that we really work so hard on pranayama in a yoga session, but sometimes it'll slip off the map and we'll forget to check in with that breath and see what it's really telling us. And one more flow here. And then just rest that left forearm to the thigh. And then reach the right arm up and over. Stop when you feel like that's enough. Then slowly bring yourself into that reverse warrior. Just sweep that left arm up and stretch. And I'm holding on to my chair seat. Gosh knows you don't want to come falling out of the chair. So you might want to hold on to that chair seat for a little bit of support. And then slowly release from there. Bringing the arms back into your warrior two. We're going to do that one more time where you're facing the palms forward and bring the arms back. Really stretching. And then slowly release, bringing it back to center. Go ahead and pop your feet on the block if you like. And then move through your cat-cow flow. Inhale to open up the chest. Exhale to round the back. And now we're going to move into a couple of stretches before we start to head into Shavasana. And gosh, taking the time to really explore how this practice has felt for you, so important. The first stretch that we're actually going to move into is that throat stretch that we did earlier on, because we kind of want to check in towards this area to see if there's any discomfort. Left hand to the right chest, underneath the collarbone, just press in and down, lift the chin and direct it to the left. And then release from there and switch it off to the other side. Press in and pull down on that upper left side, and then lift the chin and direct that chin towards that right corner. Good. And then release from there. Check in, take a couple of breaths, and then grab your strap when you're ready. Might need some hydration too. We're going to move into a couple of traditional stretches. I use these last two stretches all the time for the end of my yoga practices because I really like using them. But there's one more strength orientation thing that we're going to work into today before we head into those last two stretches. And using the strap, I want you to hold your hands shoulder width apart. And when we talk about shoulder width, we're not talking about like that. Sometimes people will do that. But you're really right in line with the tops of your arms here attached to the shoulder assembly. And I want you to first push the knuckles forward and then bring them back. You're moving into protraction and retraction of that shoulder and just seeing how it feels. And just kind of work with your breath, with however feels good to you. Good. Then bring it to neutral. The arms are still raised, but when we mean neutral, it's like in that soft space between that protraction and retraction. And then slowly lift the arms up, and when you need to stop, stop right there. So whatever that height is, just test yourself to see what is your range of motion at this point. And then slowly bring it back down. You're making sure that you don't feel any tension at the back of the neck. You feel controlled and supported and comfortable. And we're going to do that one more time. Breathe into that lift. Go just as high as you're comfortable taking it. No force. If you feel any kind of pain, discomfort, burning sensation, bring it right back and then slowly lower. Keep pulling on the ends of that strap and then release. Shoulder circles up and around. So that's a really great test to find out range of motion. Are you comfortable enough to be able to move forward into the rest of the practices that we have available online in our YouTube channel? And if you can feel like with that you're good to go and you don't have any pain or burning or any delayed reaction to it, then always going with your own better sense, explore the remaining classes that we have out there. So now we're going to move into my last two favorite stretches, and it's seated big toe and revolve big toe. So you're going to anchor the strap at the end of your left foot and lift it up to hip height. Grab onto it with that leg nice and straight and bring it out to the side, and then reach that opposite arm out and just hold on to it here. It's the last two things that you'll be doing on each side before we head into a little bit of Shavasana, because it's always nice to reconnect at the end of our practice. And then slowly bring that leg in, hand it off to the other hand, and then move into your twist. Keep lengthening up through the spine. And then gently release. Anchoring that strap at the end of the opposite foot, elevate it just to as high as you can, and then slowly bring it out to the side as you reach the opposite arm out. Breathe in and then check in with your intention. Did you stay true throughout your practice? Are you headed in the direction that you wanted to be headed in? And did you give yourself a little bit of wiggle room so that if you were starting to feel anything that wasn't working for you, you could drop out of it and still feel good about the practice that you're doing? And then slowly bring that leg in and move right in to that seated twist. Just take one more breath. And then gently release. You did great. So get into a comfortable position. And I always like to tell folks that if you're doing a chair class and you're at home, there's no reason why if you're comfortable lying down on a mat, placing a bolster behind your knees, or maybe even moving into one of those restorative poses with a pranayama pillow along the spine to open up through the chest and bolster behind the knees is yummy, especially for shoulder and chest recovery. So whatever posture you feel good about, just go ahead and move yourself into it and give yourself freely into that posture. Just surrender. Close your eyes, maybe place an eye pillow over your eyes. And allow your breath to get nice and even and soft. And just start letting go. And when it's time to come back, I'll come for you. Take a deep breath. And just move your fingers and toes a little bit. Give yourself a little bit of a stretch. If you're reclining on the mat, roll yourself over to one side. Otherwise, just soften and take a few breaths. And gently push yourself back to an upright seated posture. Let's draw our hands to the heart center. Focus and simplicity are two of the most beautiful concepts. And sometimes we forget that with one you get the other. Lokaha, samistaha sukino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy, free, and at peace. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today. And check out the rest of the remaining classes that are online. Make sure that you're always following your inner guide, because that's what's most important. I'll see you next time.